slightly more than a minute remaining for opening, and it's likely to be a strong one above the 8,050-60 level that we are expecting. Amrish Paliga as well as Mayuresh Joshi is now with us. Good morning, gentlemen. Amrish,
good morning.
Let me first start with you. Just quickly before it opens, you think 8,000 is still a decent level for any investor to invest in?
Yeah, surely. I mean, anything between 7,800 to 8,000 levels is a decent level to, get in. But the question is whether one should be entering today when the market is opening with this sort of a gap. I would say possibly wait for a while, because the sort of a V-shaped recovery which we are seeing may not really last too long, because I believe that it should have consolidated those lower levels and then moved. It would have been more sustainable. But this move, I am a bit skeptical.
Right. Just a word on the FII flows. Is the worst in terms of redemption behind, and the pace is likely to reduce drastically now?
No, I think it should reduce. May not be drastically, but yes, it should reduce, because what we have seen in the past couple of months is FIIs have been selling. There was a panic sale of that 5,000 crores plus, yeah. But then I think it will reduce, but I don't think you will see too much of FII inflows, at least immediately. It is basically the domestic money which will save our markets.
Right. I'll just come back, Amrish and Mayuresh, after the opening. Just about 3-4 seconds remaining for opening. We should have prices coming anytime soon. Pre-open session indicated 105-point gain and closer to 8,053 odd level mark. First trades on your screen. Vedanta up 5%. Commodities, the underlying asset that they sell, saw a relief rally yesterday, and that's why these names are also look good. Look at ONGC up 4%. Wipro is up about half. PNB is up close to 1.5%. Sun Pharma is up 1%. MSCI rebalancing. Sun Pharma has seen an increase in the weightage starting Tuesday or Monday's closing. So that's a name that will be in focus over 2 days. ICICI Bank up 1%. Ultratech up 1.6. It's a 96-point open for Nifty. 8,044 odd level. So slightly lower than what SGX was indicating. But still, it's not that bad. It may pick up. It's just about 8-10 seconds in opening. Bank of Baroda up about 1.7. K in India up 6%. It's a clear reflection of what's happening in crude and crude oil prices. PNB up 1.3, Reliance up 1.3. K in India, of course, is the top gainer, and it's really no surprise. Vedanta followed by it, 4% higher. Commodities saw a rally today, yesterday night, ONGC up about 4%. Again, it's a beneficiary of crude oil prices going up. Hindalco up 3%. Copper and aluminium, both the prices surged, and I think you're seeing that most of the commodity stocks, whether it's crude, whether it's metals, all of them are seeing a relief rally in the market right now. But it's a strong open, 330 points for Sensex, 105 as far as Nifty is concerned, and it's looking in quite good. Infosys up about 2.5%, 1,111 as we are speaking in for Infosys. HCL Tech, or the second large cap IT company, is up 2.5% odd. TCS Wipro would also be doing quite well. Bharti is up 2%. Yesterday there was a news flow. Yesterday, that too means day before post-market hours, that they are looking into acquire one of the data companies. They have not declared the price, but it's a small acquisition, 150 crores in terms of acquisition. 354, that is for Bharti. It's up about 2.5%. Ultratech has seen some correction in the last few days, maybe retracing some of those gains, 1.7 odd percent in terms of gain. SBI up about 1.5, 253. Axis Bank up 1.6. There is a call coming in from CLSA, a positive one for Axis Bank. We'll get to the details of that in just a bit. BPCL, it's 2% down, but it's not the biggest loser, because it's a 22 rupee ex-dividend today. So actually it's up about, you can see 19 rupee tick, so it's actually up about 2 rupees or so. It's not a loser. If we could just pull up BPCL futures, you'll get a sense. I think that should be trading into the green, because it's the cash market, right? That's down about that's actually just down about a rupee or so. BPCL futures. Power Grid, one of the top losers, down about 50 paisa. It was a stock to watch for expiry, so maybe that did not play out, and that's the reason why it's down. NMDC saw a surge yesterday during the last 1 hour of trading session, but right now it's absolutely flat, and it's looking in strong as far as the opening is concerned. Slight bit of gains being faded off, but I don't think that should concern people much. I think we are above the 8,000, 8,050 odd mark, and most of the people would continue to be bullish. Vedanta, Pipavav Shipyard, Sterlite Technology, IFP Industries, India Cements on your screen up 4%, Neville Lignite up 3.5%, Trident Limited off late, one of the names that's gaining in a lot of traction, up 3%. Gammon Infra, there is a news flow. We'll get the management. They've sold about 9 projects, or stake in 9 projects, I think, for 2,000 odd crores, 11% higher. Jubilant Life, there is a call that is coming from Nomura. We'll just put that out, and this is a name which has done well. They have increased their target price, I think, to 430 plus. So I think that's why that name is buzzing in. JSW Energy up 3.5, 76 odd rupees. KPIT Technologies up about 3 odd percent. That's a name which is doing well. JP Associates was up 6% yesterday. Right now it's up 2, but you know it's fallen like quite a bit, so it's not that great in terms of gains. Aurobindo Pharma 761. Again, there is a call which is coming from Citi on Aurobindo Pharma, and I think that's the reason why this name is doing well. Himmat Singha Saidi, it's not a F&O company, it's up about 5%. Kaveri Seed, just let's pull that one up. It's up about 2% or so. I mean, you know, last series was particularly very bad for Kaveri Seeds. Generally, people have been quite bullish with the people who track this on the sell side, and maybe this series, you know, you're seeing a start of some fresh open build-up coming in, but we don't know. We'll have to wait and watch. It's just 4 minutes into the new series. Mayuresh Joshi and Amrish Baliga are still with us. Mayuresh, to you first. What do you make of this opening above the 8,050 odd mark? We sustain this level. You still think that at least a bottom in the near term has been made?
Morning, Pankaj. Not really sure about the bottom being made in the near term, but clearly I think the US data which has come through has propped up markets globally. But clearly I think the China spooks have jittered the markets around. The currencies have seen huge amount of volatility. And again, I think you're not really sure on the kind of data that keeps flowing out of China over the next few weeks or quarters. Having said that, again, I think a lot of the negatives that the Indian markets were going through with the kind of sharp correction coupled with the global meltdown that we saw had priced in to a great deal. So in my opinion, I think if the market comes back to those levels of 7,800, 7,900, I think that will be an appropriate and an opportune time to start at least chipping in from a long-term perspective, at least start putting incremental money to the tune of 10-15%.
Right, but you know, do you think if somebody has missed out to put any money in the last few days, that's the Monday crash or the Tuesday crash, you know, 7,900 would be a good level? I mean, it's a decently fair value. There may be some downside risk, but the value would be fair to go with the large cap names?
Oh yes, again, and I think if you look at the kind of corrections that have got meted down to stocks within the private banking space, for example, stocks within the pharma universe, which had run up quite significantly. Clearly, I think those stocks have no relation in terms of a direct correlation with what China does. So it's more domestic-led, and it's clearly a story on how the capex cycle and the investment cycle resumes in India, specifically on the financials. Pharma is more led by how their growth happens specifically in the generics market and specifically the US region. So having said that, I think such corrections and such sharp corrections would give opportunities because the stock price is correct and they come back to their long-term averages.
Right. Amrish, would you agree that if anybody wants to invest, as you pointed out, such you know, heavy gap up openings,
right,
one should not invest? If there is a correction of 150, 200 points as well, say slowly and steadily, not as sharp as we've seen,
yes,
do you think it's a decent level to get into the tried and tested large cap names?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I was saying for the last couple of days, that I mean 7750, 7800 seem to be a decent support level. So anything closer to that, one should be looking at buying, and especially on those dip days, which was actually Monday and Wednesday, I'd suggested people to keep buying. But then days like these, I think one should stay away and possibly book out to a certain extent. I mean, in case you have bought on Monday and Wednesday and those stocks are giving you 10-15% sort of a return within 2 or 3 days, I think surely you should book out to a certain extent, because this rally will not take the markets beyond that 8200 levels or 8400 levels. So because of which I would say that over the next 6 to 8 weeks, you'll get enough chances, enough opportunities to in fact buy at slightly lower levels than where we are right now.
Right. The strength in the mid-cap space, the comeback of the mid-cap space, does that tell you anything?
I mean, that clearly points to the fact that there is a lot more of domestic liquidity than what we have seen in the past couple of years, and I think that's what is supporting the markets to a certain extent. So, and I mean, and the way the liquidity has been coming in, and the sort of positive sentiments which are there with the retail investors, especially those investing in mutual funds, I think this will continue. I mean, at least like in the foreseeable future.
Right. And would you go with the mid-cap names? I mean, if anybody wants to invest in the mid-cap funds, should that be advisable? Because if we are at the cup, largely at a growth cycle which is turning in,
right,
it will be the mid-cap ones that will lead the numbers, and the valuations will follow the EPS growth.
No, that's true. I think you should be investing in both in the large caps as well as as well as the mid caps, because even the large caps, the way they have fallen in the past couple of days, forget the way they have moved up in the last 2 days. But then I think that's the place where there is a decent amount of opportunity also. So I think one should be investing in both.
Right. One should be investing in a mix of both, as always, yes, and that should always be used as a strategy, whether we are at a high or at a low.
Absolutely.
Right. So which are the mid-cap names that you like? Any mid-cap names that you like, or large-cap names if you like after the correction?
I mean, the ones which you just mentioned some time back, one of them is Himmat Singh Ka Seede, which I've been recommending since the levels, I think, of 65-70. And after touching levels of about 220, it had corrected decently well. But I think levels of 180, 190, I think one can look at like re-entering. There's one more stock like Engineers India, which again I've recommended for the last 6-7 months. That also had corrected decently well from those 220 levels. So I think at the current levels, one could look at buying it.
Right. Amrish, what would be your strategy on some of the names like Ambuja Cements or maybe HDFC? They've corrected a lot in the last 5-6 days. Right. Some of these names which have always been the blue chip companies, would you be looking to add some of them? Anything in the large cap space?
Absolutely. I think when Ambuja had broken those 200 levels, 190 at 200, I think that was a great time to pick up Ambuja. Even today, I mean, it's not very strong as compared to the markets. So in case you see levels of about 201, 202 over the next 1 or 2 days, I think one should be looking at buying that stock. HDFC is evergreen. Whenever there is a correction, I think it should be bought.
Right. Mayuresh Joshi is also with us. Mayuresh, what would be your top picks? You track pharma very closely. Those are probably the only names which have not corrected, but still looking in attractive.
So clearly, Pankaj, I think it depends on the perspective. So if you're talking from an FY16 perspective, I think the valuations capture most of the growth prospects that a lot of these companies are expected to deliver. However, I think if you take a longer time horizon, Sun Pharma is where we feel I think the value still lies. On any decline, Sun Pharma looks like a very good bet for long-term investors. Yes, there would be integration-related issues as the management has highlighted. The markets are pretty well aware of this, that the integration issues will take a toll on the margins, the ROEs for FY16. But FY17 numbers, once they start getting thrown out, I think it will be much better. And then again, I think it will have an implied effect in terms of how the earnings will pan out. Similarly, I think stocks like Cipla, I think on declines, if you get that, I think they're in a very sweet spot in my opinion. I think the kind of opportunities that they have, similarly from the CFC inhaler market, that's close to $3 billion odd. And clearly, I think the ANDA pipeline application that it probably possesses, I think that keeps it in a sweet spot as well. So again, on declines, because I think it's priced to perfection at the current point of time.
And the private banking names that have also seen a huge correction. You think that that's again a space that you would look at if you've declined? Any names that you like? Probably not at these levels after 2 days of gap up openings. Maybe something that one should keep an eye out for 5-10% correction from here on, and it becomes a no-brainer.
Oh yes, again, I think clearly if you look at the kind of performance that private banks have given compared to the public sector counterparts, they have been delivering steady set of numbers. You have seen weak economic growth, but I think the credit growth has held up for a lot of these guys. The asset quality has held up for most of the players within the private universe. And clearly, I think if you look at the kind of branch network that they've got, the operating leverage benefits accrue to them much faster than the PSU counterparts. So clearly, I think even though they are trading at a higher valuation compared to PSU banks, our take is that with better capital adequacy, with the branch network that they possess, the return on assets, return on equity should be much better. So for example, I think Axis Bank, we're believing in a 21-22% earnings CAGR over the next 2 years. For Yes Bank, a 26% earnings CAGR. The counter-cyclical provisions that both these banks have done hold them in good stead, just in case I think some sectors start going awry over the next few quarters. So clearly, I think Axis, Yes, ICICI are the spaces that we'll probably look at, and even any chip in and LIC housing from the NBFC space, which our belief is that the cost of funds have come down with bank deposits coming down in terms of their borrowings and shifting to bonds, and the yields have got maintained for a lot of these NBFC guys, specifically for LIC Housing, where the yields are close to 10.85%. The asset quality has held up, and again on a price to book comparison at 2 times, I think it's not too expensive.
Right, Mayuresh, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Amrish, before I let you go, I just wanted your perspective on the oil marketing companies. What's the view over there? Oil prices being where they are,
Right.
their GRMs are looking in decent, numbers are coming in decent. BPCL got ex-dividend today. It was like unexpected
Right.
of oil marketing companies to give ex-dividend. You think things are changing in valuations? If a 4-5% correction from here on will lead to them being a compelling buy?
No, things have already changed, and we should remember that most of them have become like multi-baggers. So whatever surprise element was there is already known. I don't think, going ahead, there'll be a major outperformance, because in case we see a spike in oil prices, because they have dropped quite sharply, although there's a talk of oil going to levels of $30. But in case there's a spike, I don't think these stocks will really perform. But at the same time, in case we see the oil going down further from here, people will say it is as expected. So there is no surprise element in that. So I don't think from here on you'll really see a major outperformance from these stocks.
And whatever outperformance would come from these names would be purely because of EPS, because what you're saying is largely the re-rating factor is behind of the changes that are happening.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
So,
Names like ONGC, names like Reliance Industries, at oil prices where they are, would you want to take a buy on them? I mean, ONGC, I think, would have not performed in the last 2 years despite markets doing what it has. Similar is the story with Reliance Industries.
I would be more comfortable with the Reliance Industries at this point of time, clearly looking at the sort of performance they have shown, and especially if we should remember that this stock was quoting at levels of about 1,020 when the last results came in. And there was not much of a reason for the stock to fall, so drastically. So I think at about, 850 to 875 range where it is currently, I think if one is looking at slightly longer term, it's clearly a buy.
Right, Mayuresh, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Hope you have a great day going ahead, and maybe the volatile moves that we've seen this week are also behind us with this Friday. We're taking a quick break. Our first after opening Nifty is now looking to settle about 86 odd points higher for the Nifty, above the 8,000 level right now. Sajeev Dhawan will be with us on the other side.